Hi, I am Sophia Louisa Lee, and thank you so much for joining me for another episode of So Zoom In. So Zoom In. Today, I'm going to be speaking with Deborah Robillard. She is an author and screenwriter who is living in North Carolina. She wrote a book that was turned into a script, which made it to the silver screen and has won awards. I want to talk about you as a writer. You know, you wrote a book, The Crickets Dance. That is not an easy thing to do. It's available on Amazon, but you did something what so many writers want to do. You had it turned into a film.
Yes.
I would love to talk about your process. First of all, you wrote this book in honor of a friend. Is that correct?
I did. We had been friends all of our lives, and she was pregnant and didn't tell me that she was pregnant. So I wasn't quite sure why when I saw her. And I hadn't seen her in a couple months, and I walk up to her car door to get in, and I see this, she's going to have a baby. And I was like, what's going on? And she goes, well, his dad's biracial, and I wasn't sure what anybody would think, and I was scared to tell you. And I was like, why would you be scared to tell me? You're going to have a baby. That's wonderful news. And she said, well, will you be there when he's born? And I said, of course. So her mother and I were there when he was born. And I was in street clothes. I didn't have on scrubs or anything from the hospital that I worked at. And I avoided OB like the plague. It's not my thing. And sure enough, she had some really, really awful complications. She had an allergic reaction to the epidural when they put it in her. And to reverse that kind of medicine is nearly impossible. So I was standing there next to her nurse. It was super busy. There was no other medical professional available. And her mom was praying in the hallway. And she looked at me and said, are you really a nurse? And I said, yes. And she said, I need your help. And she threw me an IV bag over Rachel's head and said, spike this. And she hit the code button on the wall. And I thought, oh no, I don't want to be here if she's going to die. But I couldn't walk out and leave her because I was literally in street clothes hanging an IV at a hospital I didn't work at, and I knew I couldn't leave, but I didn't want to stay. If she was going to die, I didn't want to watch because I knew what was going on, and I was trying to process 10 or 12 steps, as you do, ahead of how we were going to stop it. And I couldn't come out with a good ending any way that it went. And I could see her results, but I couldn't see what the baby was doing. So I had to just focus on her because the baby monitors really aren't my thing anyway. So I tried to just focus on everything she needed. And I got right down in her ear and I said, Rachel, you got to save this baby. You got to push right now. Mm-hmm. And she was going in and out of consciousness. And she said, I can't. And I said, you have to, come on. And she did. She got him out. And then I was thinking, okay, is she going to now be all right? And we got her oxygen back up. We got her fluids going, and her body started to metabolize the medication, and it started to come out of her body. But it took 3 days for her to really wake up. Mm-hmm. And when I looked at that boy, I thought, how could anyone judge him? How could anybody not look at him and think he's just perfect? Because she almost died to bring him here, And so when I talk about Annabeth in the book and how much she loves that child, and she realizes he's going to be born in a time where it's going to be very hard for him, and she's afraid for him. That's why she sits down to write the journal. That's where the inspiration for the journal came from. And he's healthy and well now. They both are. He's in college and has done really well in life and is at a great school. And Rachel has raised a wonderful boy. So I'm super proud of her, super proud of him, just to know them and be, in that moment in their lives with them when that happened. I look back at it and it was scary, but I look back at it now, it was a privilege to be there and to help when I could.
Do they know the book was inspired by them?
They do. Their names are in front of it. And it's my understanding that he's taken it to school a couple of times and shown it to his friends and, look, here's my name. And, so I am happy that he's happy about it for sure.
Wow, that's great. Okay, how long did it take you to write the book?
3 long years. because I knew the subject matter was going to be on the fence for some people of acceptability, you know, so I wanted to get it just right. And the reason Rachel was afraid that people were not going to accept her son is because we grew up in a really small town in the South in the 90s, rural area. And I mean, people do not often believe me when I tell them we had our first mixed black and white prom together the year I graduated in 1990. And that's because some of the students formed a group and went to the principal and asked for it. Because up until then, there was 2 separate locations, 2 separate proms. It was not held or sanctioned by the school. And they fought for it. They fought really hard, and I'm super proud of them as well. So kind of everywhere I come from is a little piece of this book. And I did use my hometown as an inspiration, and a lot of the, you know, women that I know are all rolled up together and put in Janice. And I was so thrilled that that character was played by Bobby Eakes, because she was actually raised 20 minutes down the road from where I grew up. So she knew that situation, and she read the book immediately and was like, I get Janice. I get her. I know that person. I said, I knew you would. And we got her because a friend of mine knows her. And they called me one day and said, hey, Bobby Eakes is interested in this project. And I was like, what? I was thrilled. So I had a lot of support from home and a lot of help. And everyone that's read it from home that kind of recognizes a little piece of what our lives were growing up there together is so proud of that moment that we had.
So when you finished writing the book, how long did it take from it being a novel to being turned into a screen?
Well, when I finished writing it, I wasn't really sure what to do with it. I had never done anything like that before. I mean, you have years of writing experience, and that came from the medical field. So I was thinking, okay, I don't know what to do with this. This is not. So I called around. I was in Las Vegas at the time, and I found a local agency, and the lady that ran the agency read it, and her name is Carol. She said, I have to have this. Her husband said, you need to take this book or somebody else is going to. So she did. And I thought that happened for everyone that way. And it turns out it does not. So doors just started opening, things that I could have never foreseen. And so it came out through Carol's agency with no major push behind it. And it just found its way into people's hands, into people's hearts. And it started to really resonate. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is okay. So then she sent it to a producer friend of hers in LA, and she was like, you really need to pursue getting a movie done with this. She goes, this isn't the kind of film that I make, but you need to pursue it some way, somehow. Keep looking. I got on Twitter. I'd never sent a tweet ever in like 2015 or 16. And I started sending Twitter messages out to production companies in LA, ones that I could find that were small and accessible. And I heard back from the first 2 right away. The third one, via Awaken, I did not hear back from them for a few months. And when she sent me back a Twitter message, it took me a minute to think who that was. And I was like, oh, that's that production company. And she said, what's the name of the book? And I sent it back to her. And 2 weeks later, she called me on the phone. And we ended up making a movie together.
If it was meant to be.
I think so, but it just, there were so many things along the way of planning this film that I didn't do, that I could see God's hand moving it forward every single, day. We get a little bit and a little bit and a little bit closer. And I am so thrilled and thankful that God sort of picked me up out of the life I was in, which was comfortable to me, because I'm not good at this public speaking part. You're very composed. I'm super nervous.
Oh, you're doing great. You're awesome.
And I couldn't believe it when then people really, really started to read it, and I was signing books at small book signings, and people would come up to me and just be like, this really changed the way I think. This made me think about what I think about people and how I perceive them. Because really, none of us is 100% of anything. My dad just had his DNA done, and he's like 50% of this and 20% of this and 11% of that, I mean, just because you can see it in the face of someone who's closer to those roots doesn't make their story any different than yours. It doesn't mean they got here any differently than you did. It doesn't mean God planned their life any less.
Right, exactly. Well, I think your book is very contemporary, even now, especially in this climate, where
Yeah,
there's such a divide, but we are all made by God.
right.
We all have a purpose. What I like about your book too, it's a love story.
Yes.
And I think every story has to have a love story. I mean,
Yes.
to me, love is everything.
Right.
No matter what the genre is. Do you want to share a little bit about the book?
The love story part for me came in 3 kind of separate stories in my head. And because it jumps back and forth in time, I didn't write like the modern part and then the retro part. I wrote it in time, down the timeline, chapter by chapter. And so I really had to keep track of where I was in the story. But it's a love story for me in a couple of different ways. One, Emmeline and Ophelia, they are raised together like sisters. They love one another so much as family. And that's a different kind of love story, but it's one that wouldn't have been easy to have back then. They hid one another's secrets. They helped each other every way that they could. Here you have this young white girl who's given a slave for her birthday of a 14-year-old young girl. All they had growing up was each other, because she was separated by wealth from most of the other children around her. And that story for me was as much fun to write as the Angie and Andrew story of today, but Angie's story for me was a lot of my own heart. What I was feeling at that time was like, Lord, there is not one good man left on this planet anywhere, and if there is, I can't find him. And so I wanted people to younger women who maybe in their 30s who are getting married a little bit later, I wanted them to sort of see themselves in her. There's hope that the right person is for sure worth waiting for, in whatever form God, I mean, she wasn't expecting that this man that she didn't know, that she was followed all these clues to find, was going to end up being the love of her life, but she was open to it. So yeah, that was fun to write.
So great to be in that flow of writing and to actually get it done. I mean, that's a huge accomplishment, because so many people start to write, but then let it go and they forget about it, or they do other stuff. So I'm very proud of you for doing that. So when your book was turned into a script and you're in the production process,
yes,
what was that like for you?
Foreign. Very foreign. I'd never done it before. I was helping, read the script, and I consulted on that a lot. And I worked with the actors on each of their roles if they weren't quite certain about the accent. And I worked with all of them over the phone, and then we would go through like words, like the journal pages, because those, I was so proud the way that it translated, because it was able to be taken straight off the pages of the book and put straight into the script that way. There was very little manipulation that needed to be done of the scenes where Annabeth is reading to the baby in the journal, and the scenes where Emmeline is talking to Annabeth in the journal after her problems and her tragedies and stuff unfold. And so I was really kind of a fish out of water in the whole process, but I was also in the center of the water. So I was just kind of in the deep end going, all right, whatever I need to do to help. And the actors were all so good to me. The ones from the South were super supportive, because they understood and knew where I was coming from and what I was trying to say. And the ones who were not from the South were super supportive in the way that they were like, I don't know this history. I didn't live in this history growing up, but I'm going to learn it for this, because I want to be part of this project. It meant something to every one of them to be there. And I was really proud of that, because each one of them dug into those characters. Kristen, I have said before that I saw her script the first day when she showed up on set, and I was like, oh my gosh, it looked like the worst book I ever bought in college. It was all tattered in pieces and highlighted and folded, and I was like, man, she has been studying this book and this script so hard. And I was so proud of her, because she just came and brought it. Maurice the same. And then when Bobby Eakes was signed onto the project, I was so happy. And she literally just came on her own and showed up on set. And she even brought like some of her own clothes and stuff to wear for the office scenes and stuff, because she's tiny, she's hard to fit. And we had all the Tina Barbary made all of the costumes for all of the retro era people. And so we were, Bobby was like, it's okay, I'll just bring some of my own clothes. I have business and office clothes to wear. And I was like, okay. So Tina helped dress her and go through her stuff and get her what she needed. But watching all of that to me was just astonishingly, I didn't realize it took that many people to put that production together. There's a lot, it literally takes a village of people. And I met some really great ones on the set, for sure.
Well, that's so exciting. Well, okay, so it won Best Film. Congratulations.
Yeah.
And also won, what, Best Supporting Actress?
That was for Sandra Lafferty, who love her two pieces. She was in the demo trailer. She had just, I think she had just finished Hunger Games right before that. And I was like, gosh, I just saw her in the Hunger Games when she came to the set. And I was like, wow, she doesn't have to do this, but she wanted to. She had been living in Alabama for years, and she understood that story, and she knew many Miss Claudias. And she can tell you, when she sat down in the makeup chair, she said to me, how do you want this accent to sound? And I was like, oh my gosh, is she really asking me that? There's got to be somebody here who knows better than I do how to answer her. But in truth, she wanted to know how it sounded in my head. And many of the actors, I did that with many of them on set, with Bill about playing David, and with Mark for his role as Jackson, because they sort of play the villain roles. They were like, well, how does it look in your head? What do you see? Especially Bill and I had that conversation when he asked me about taking baby Andrew away. And I said, in my heart, David didn't become the kind of person that he was because he had a great life. He didn't do as Jackson asked him to do, even if it was terrible, because he was loved and well cared for. You know, he did it because he didn't know anything else. And that might not be a really good reason for someone to do the things that they do. But for David, in my heart, the baby was the last straw, which is why I didn't show what David did with the baby. I just showed him riding off, because there was no way for David to justify giving that baby to the people he thought he would fit in best with, which would have been the Native Americans that were in Georgia at that time. So I didn't have David say that, but in my heart, to answer that question for everyone who's asked it, that's what I think David did with Andrew.
Oh wow. All right, so this film, it's still making the festival circuit?
It is.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do we hope to see it anywhere anytime soon?
I don't know. I know as much as you guys do about where it's going next. I mean, because I think as long as it keeps winning, they keep entering it. And nobody is more surprised than I am that this story has reached so many people on this broader platform and is being accepted, and not only accepted but praised. So I'm as excited as everyone else to see where it goes and what it does from here, for sure.
Well, I know it'll definitely be on online platforms probably in a year or so.
Probably was what I'm thinking. I don't know. I'm excited. I'm excited for the next thing. You know, so you just don't have words, because when it got, I think my favorite awards that it wins are the audience choice ones, because those are picked by the people who saw it and said, oh, wow, that resonated with me in some way. Mm-hmm. And when it won that in Australia, the first, I guess, sort of comments that I started getting by email, or even Amazon will send them to you when people say something about it. The first ones that I got that were not from the United States were from Australia. So I don't know if that's a part of our history that they're curious about, or if it sort of mirrors the Aboriginal situation there and things that they've been through. I don't know all of that history, but I wonder, like, why? did it win audience choice in Australia? Like, what was the resonance with the audience there? Because for me, that was such a huge, amazing honor that people that are that far away from us would have. It just really, we're so far apart on the globe, but we're so close together as people.
Well, I think that too, when you have a good story, that's what resonates. And you have a great story.
Yeah, I'm proud of it for sure. It took me, I wanted to get it just right. And before I sat down and wrote, anybody that was around me when they saw me writing it will tell you, I would pray before I put my hands on the keyboard, because I just had a feeling somewhere deep inside that if somebody else ever read it, and I didn't know that that was going to be true, but if they did, I wanted it to be important to just that one person, even if it was just one person. So
that makes you an artist. In my opinion, that definitely makes you a true artist.
Thank you for that.
Thank you for that. The story, and so that's so kudos for that, because that's so rare.
I think everybody has something inside of them that God gave them to do, and maybe this is my thing. It feels like it. I'm working on another project now, and it's just you want every single word to say something important, but you want every single word too for people to know who you are as a person. So I hope when people read the last page of that book, they know that my heart is in the right place to write it, because I haven't gotten anything saying that it was offensive to anyone, which I am so grateful for that. But I want people to understand my story. I'm from the South. I'm from a small town. I was raised in a Christian home, and that's who I am. And people are very accepting of that as they share their stories back with me of things they've been through.
So The Cricket's Dance is the name of your novel. It's the name of the film that's adapted into. How did you come up with that title?
That everybody asked me that question a lot, and I wasn't expecting that to be something people would want to know. We went, honestly, Carol and I went through, I don't even know how many titles, because after it was done, just nothing seemed to fit. So she went through the book and she found that chapter and read it. And that's the pivotal moment, sort of, where they really come together and say, wow, I can see us dating. I can see us standing side by side. So when I wrote that scene of them dancing on the porch, I thought to myself, she could turn on a radio and there could be some kind of music playing in the background. But then I was like, no, you would expect her to turn on the radio, and if you looked at my iPod, you'd expect there to be a lot of country music on there, and you're right, there is. And if you looked at Andrew's, you might expect it to have, some other kind of music on there that I wouldn't necessarily listen to. And I thought, what's the middle ground? The middle ground is something God made. The middle ground is a noise or a song or a wave that only God could make. So that's why I use the crickets. And for me, that sort of the crickets dancing theme was taking away more boundaries between them, because then there was no, oh, that's his music, that's her music, that's God's music, so it's all of ours.
Oh,
that's where it came from.
I love that. That's really good.
Yeah. It took me a minute to come up with that, because I really had to think when we were doing this title, I just prayed on it. And when I wrote that chapter, I was like, Lord, help me say these words as they're falling in love in a way that is real, in a way that other women will read it. And they're picturing the person that she's dancing with, but you want them to be able to picture that person in a way that is resonates to them, as well. And so that's why one of the lines which Claudia says is he's not a black man or a white man, he's a good man, and you have to start looking at him for his heart. And he struggles with that a little bit in the book, but so does Andrew for a minute. So I think we all do. And to say that we all do and say, yeah, I think everybody might understand that from whatever color of the spectrum they're looking at you through.
Yeah, personally, I would like to see people do that. I would like people to see each other for what's in their heart, and just like
Right,
not see what's on the outside. Really,
right. Because there's so much of the outside that doesn't say who we really are. You know, it's there's so many things you could assume about me by looking at me walking toward you that have nothing to do with who I am as a person, and the struggles that you go through every day, or the things in life that you face every day that you're sort of calculating in your head all the time of how to be the best mom or the best wife or the best daughter. You're trying to be all of those things, and someone might look at me and say, oh, she's that writer, but they don't uh, know me well. And this platform gives me a chance for people to see that about my heart as well. And I hope that that shows through on the pages of the book. But I'm appreciative to you for this platform, because it gives me a chance to sort of come off those pages for the people and say, this is who I am. And I
well,
want to know who you are.
have you been giving book readings anywhere?
I have not, because of COVID. It actually, I can't remember the name of it. I'm so sorry. Randall Franks, who played the doctor in the film, he recommended the book for a book club gathering that's done in North Georgia. That's like a whole bunch of different book clubs in that area. They're right on the border between Georgia and Tennessee. And it won that. And we were about to do a book signing. Randall and I together were going to do a book signing for it right when COVID hit. And so they had to cancel it. They had a few hundred people coming. And I was really excited for that, but we didn't get to do it. There's been so much canceled and moved around because of COVID.
Well, I know.
Yeah,
But so did the filming happen before COVID or during?
right before, like literally we finished in November, and I think by March everybody was in lockdown.
Wow.
Pretty much, wasn't it? 2019 is when we finished, and 2020 is when everything really, the mask and isolation and everyone starting to sort of quarantine at home started. So yeah, it was pretty much right after. So
well, I'm glad it got done. I'm glad it got out.
yeah, I was too, because we just slid under the radar like that so quickly, and there were so many things that could have stopped it along the way. For Mark, for example, was we were on his second day of shooting as Jackson, and he was in a terrible motorcycle accident on his way to the set, and I passed it. I was about 5 minutes behind him that day, and it was still dark outside in the morning. The sun wasn't quite up yet. And I see this motorcycle on the side of the road, and I think to myself, oh my gosh, that person is dead. I've never seen something so twisted and wrecked in the shape of a motorcycle, where somebody walked away from that. And I was told when I got there that it was Mark, and I was like, oh no. So I immediately just started praying for him. The set was just really somber, and we weren't sure if we were moving forward to finish it. And he was in the back of the ambulance, apparently telling them, no, I got to get to work. And he's just then hit the pavement going 45 miles an hour and bounced a couple times. And he had 5 surgeries when we were done filming, but I have to say, he was back on the set by 1 o'clock with a shattered wrist that day, with a shattered wrist, a shattered ankle, some vertebrae issues, and he was in a lot of pain. And the first day he kind of made it through on adrenaline, and I thought to myself, this is going to get worse day 2 and 3. And I was on the set with one of my friends who's a nurse, and because her son was one of the extras, and Mark was doing the scene where the Civil War soldiers walk up to the house. And my friend and I were sitting there looking at him going, he's not bearing any weight at all on that right side. That's bad. And I knew that was the ankle that he had hurt. So he couldn't walk at all. The PAs had to go and help him every day get to the set. And then as soon as, he would finish his line, they would bring a chair and run it up behind him and let him sit down. I do not know how he got through that. The third day after the accident, by that day, you're really just hurting bad, because day one, you feel it. Day two is the worst. Day three, he was just in agony. And every minute he was gritting his teeth to stay there. And we were outside at night at like 11 o'clock. There were just Jurassic bugs. We were in the slave village part, and it was pouring buckets of rain. And I'm looking at his leg going, please, God, please don't let him have a clot. Because the part of his leg that was broken and immobile is the part where you start looking for a clot. Most clots come from behind your knee. And I was looking at how swollen his leg was all the way up earlier when I helped him put his boot on. And my thought is, we got to get him off of his feet and lay him down straight somewhere, because he was sitting there with his leg bent. And that's, he would have been a perfect candidate for a blood clot, and he didn't have one. He would have been a perfect candidate for a million things to go wrong, and it didn't. And
he was determined to finish that.
He was determined. It took 5 surgeries to put him back together after that filming was over. But I'm happy for him. He's back on his feet. He's doing well. So I texted him quite a bit after, when he was flat on his back. Are you okay today, Mark? Yes, I'm okay. Because I was sort of hovering over him a lot on the set. And Mark's just not the kind of person that needs a lot of hovering most of the time. And I could tell all this attention on the set. He was grateful for everyone that helped him, but he's super, super independent. And he would rather do it himself if he could. And there were things that he couldn't do that he finally just said, I need some help. And we were all just there to do it. But I looked at him and I said, nobody's gonna be mad if you leave, Mark. And he goes, I'm gonna see this through. I want to see this through.
That's the kind of actor you want on your film, definitely.
Not only is he a talented actor, he's a very generous, kind person. He's very smart. He's very insightful. And there was something about this role that he wanted to finish. And I can never say thank you enough to Mark for getting through that and for coming back, because I don't know many people that could have or would have with that many injuries. I mean, there were moments when it could have literally been life-threatening, and he kept going.
Wow.
Just an amazing human being. Amazing.
You have to cast him again.
Yeah, I'm working. We are. I'm actually working with Mark again on the project that we're working on now. So he's agreed to come back, and I was like, I asked him that before I left. I said, Mark, if I was doing something else, can we work together again? If I ever get blessed and fortunate enough to do this again, I really want to work with you again. And he said, of course I would. And he is just that amazing of a human being. And he's read the Bible in the original translation. He's just very smart. He's also a lawyer. And so to sit and talk with him, he's so much more than what you see him getting to do on the set. So I hope to bring out more of Mark. He's an amazing guy. Loved working with him.
So, all right, this new project you're working on, is it another script? Is it a book turned into a script? What are you?
It's a book, but the book's not out yet. It's called The Ageless. Hopefully, it's being formatted now to fit the. I just saw the cover for the first time myself, finished, and it's being formatted to fit the cover right now. But yeah, it already has an IMDb page. Nobody's more surprised than me. But Mark is coming back. Bill's coming back. We're working with a really talented actor, Zane Stevens, who's going to be playing one of the parts from Vampire Diaries, who I met along the way of the process of the cricket stance. Love Zane. There's a few people on there that are coming to this film that I'm excited to work with, and a few that have surprisingly, I can't say yet, but a couple that have reached out to me and said, hey, we want to be part of this. And I'm like, it's shocking to me. Wow. Like, okay, you don't know what to say. There's just so much gratitude when somebody steps forward and says, "Hey, I want to be part of what you're doing."
Mm-hmm.
It's incredibly humbling. I'm incredibly grateful for it. I can't wait for people to see it. It's very different than the cookie stands, but it still has its own message.
So the Ageless, how long did you work on writing that as a book?
That one took me about 6 months.
Okay.
I was I had kind of already sketched out some of the characters and the timeline and stuff, and so that's kind of where I start, is who are these people and why do we care, and then I set the timeline up and just kind of, you know, fill in the book parts of it, the story parts of it, and as soon as I was done with it, I sent it to Roger, who was our cinematographer on Crickets, and I loved working with Roger. He is an amazingly talented individual with the patience of Job, and he, I loved working with him. And I sent it to him, and he called me and he said, "Debbie, I don't want to film this." And I said, "Okay, Roger, it's okay, I understand." Because you expect you're going to start getting some rejection somewhere. And he goes, "No, you don't understand. I want to direct it." And I almost fell over, and I was like, "Oh, I didn't know you had aspirations to be a director, but yes, I would love to have you do that. I'd love to see what you can do with this." And he goes, "There's so much detail here, it would be difficult to get it wrong." And I love the story of it. So he
Great.
brought on his friend Nathan, who is a cinematographer from Avatar, has signed on to the project to film it. I have not met him, but I am very excited to meet them, his crew that he's bringing with him.
It's very exciting. Now, so you wrote the script, or are you guys?
Danny Boudet wrote the first version of the script, and he gave it to me, and then I incorporated some of the things from the book that I just, as an author, you hold on so tight to some of the things from the book, and you're like, "Oh, I just can't let this go. I can't let that go." And uh, so Danny was kind enough to sort of write this with me and be a part of it. And he is an amazing screenwriter, as are you. And I got to tell you, it's harder than I thought it would be. It is not easy to take the words from the book, where you have pages and pages to say what you want, and condense it down to something that's much smaller than that will fit on the screen. It's an art form for sure to get that done.
Yeah, but it's a learning curve for you too, but you're doing it, which is exciting.
It's a huge learning curve, and it's a little bit slow going at times, but there are parts of it, like it was just read by a production company, and they sent me back the script, and they had some notes, and they had asked me to look at a few things in the script, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, the script." So I started again at the beginning, because for me, you're a script writer, this is what you do. I don't know if you can just pick it up and open it from the middle and start editing from there. I cannot. I have to start at the beginning every time, because it's like moving a Rubik's Cube around. If you change this line on this page, it affects something 10 pages prior, because it's such a jam-packed, condensed version of the book, and everything is in there. So you really have to make sure you put it in a timeline that the director can read and it makes sense to them. It's a very different process than writing a book. Very, very, very different. It's a huge learning curve, and hats off to you for winning in Brussels, because oh my gosh, it takes a lot of patience to do it for me. And it's not that difficult to write a book for me, but the script has been a little harder for sure.
Well, I think what's so exciting is you are allowing the whole process to happen. It's like you wrote one book, it was made into a film, and you just had that momentum to write another book, and now it's going to be turned into a film. So you are a filmmaker. You are a writer. So yeah. as you go through the process of this, you're gaining so much more wisdom, so much more experience. You're going to be writing another book that's going to be turned into another script, and this is just something that you're going to do.
It would seem that way. And you just don't know how many times you're going to write something and people are going to go, "Oh, that's a great movie." But I think the way that we watch movies is changing so much right now, that there are so many more platforms out there, that there is legitimately a stage for every voice, and everyone who has something to say. And so I'm super grateful for that. I don't know that this time, if it weren't for this time in history, with the technology we live with today, with the way things are now, if the doors, if it would be this accessible to so many people. But I'm super blessed and super thrilled for the journey, for wherever God has to take me, whatever doors He wants to open. I'm just praying for the courage to keep going through them.
Well,
it's a daunting experience sometimes.
I think that's key, to have that relationship with God and really trust that He's keeping you where you need to be.
Yeah, because you're meeting so many new people and so many new voices in your life, and so many they've been doing this for so long, and I am so the new kid here, and everyone has been so patient and so mentoring and so amazing to me in this process, and which is why I wanted to work with Roger again, because when watching him sort of work through things on crickets and get in the position of where the actor would be, and looking up, as I watched him work, I kind of learned a little bit of how filmmakers see the story, from what perspective they need to see it to tell it on the screen. And it's just a tiny look into how it worked for me watching Roger work, but it has helped me seeing how he sees things to work on this script, because you have to think of it in a very different way visually than you do when you're actually just writing it for the audience to imagine. You have to sort of take away the part of your brain that wants to make it bigger and condense everything you want to say into something really small. And you do that so well. I was watching your films the other day on the clips and stuff that you sent me, and I was like, how does she say that much in 3 minutes? It's daunting to do it. It is.
Well, but for me, it's fun. It's like I get a lot of joy out of it. And
it's not that I don't get joy out of the script writing part, it's that it's more like work for me. It's more taxing. It's hard. It's harder. It's such a different way of writing. And the book part for me, sometimes it starts flowing so fast in my head, like I have a hard time like typing it up as fast as it's coming in your head. The screenplay part for me is like, okay, I don't know what to do with that problem. Let me see if I can figure that out. So some of the things that were in the script that they had asked me to look at were, there's some voiceovers where the character just gives explanation of what's going on, and as a writer, when you're writing the novel, you can just say to the audience what's in that person's head. As a screenwriter, you have to turn that into out loud words that they're saying to someone else that they may not necessarily be able to say to someone else. You have to turn it into action.
Right.
And yeah, you'd probably laugh if you saw me struggling, going, I don't know how to make this better. Danny did such a fantastic job with the script that it's been easy for me to sort of, he's a very descriptive writer as well. So I think it's been easier for me to do this with Danny the first go around, because he and I write a lot alike. He condenses it down and makes it a script, but I am sort of able to follow his example a little bit better, because we have a lot of the same style. But I'm looking at you and I'm thinking of the films and the stuff that I've watched that you've written and done, and I'm thinking how you do that and keep doing it over and over and over again and say something important and impactful in that short amount of time. To me, that is a gift. I have a hard time with it.
Yeah, but as you know, it is a collaborative effort. So no matter what you write, it's going to be shown to someone. Someone's always going to have notes. But for you to just be in that flow of, taking notes, and being part of that collaboration, I think that's what's really about. Just like,
it is good to have people to bounce stuff off of and say, well, what do you think? How would you write that? Or what, because for sure it takes a lot of voices in the choir to make harmony, and you know, just one person trying to do it is difficult. So stepping up to that, but stepping up to it with Danny's help, and you know, with Roger's help and encouragement, and everybody that's sort of coming together to put this film together for the book that's not even out yet, is amazing.
So
They're very supportive.
When do you hope to have the book out?
I'm hoping within the next month or so. I'm hoping.
Good.
Yeah, I'm hoping so. Yeah.
Cool.
And I'm working now on the third book of the trilogy that I have been writing, that people are going, excuse me, we know you're making these movies and that's fun and all that, but we're waiting for the third installment of this book. They want to read the ending, and I'm working on that now. Everyone that's read it, I'm getting there, I promise.
You are a writer. All right, so what advice would you give to any aspiring writer out there who wants to do the same thing that you're doing? You could publish a book.
Keep writing, keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it. It took me 3 long years to write The Crickets Dance, and it was because I was my worst critic. I would beat myself up more over every little paragraph of every little thing along the way. And I was my own worst critic sometimes, and maybe if you're not sure, let somebody else read it, because it's hard. It's like singing in front of someone for the first time, to give them something that you've written, because it's a lot of your heart and your sort of blood, sweat, and tears on that page, and to let somebody else read it, it makes you very vulnerable. Embrace that and share it, because God didn't give it to you for no reason. Let somebody else in, let them read it, share it.
You never know where it's going to go.
Right, exactly.
Well,
Some things I think maybe if you write it, God means just for you to see it.
Right.
But I think some things he has in mind for you to share, and you don't know which one is which unless you take a deep breath and jump in and show somebody what you're writing and what you're working on and what's in your heart. And that has been a very humbling experience for me, for people to say, oh, I want to read that, because you're taking their time. That's the one thing you can never give back to someone, is their time.
Well, that's so beautiful. I love that. You just keep writing, and it doesn't matter how old you are or what race you are. If it's in you,
what you do, where you came from. Clearly, because I did not start here. This is not what I thought I'd be doing at this stage in my life, but I am thrilled to have these opportunities to do it, and to talk to people like you who've been doing it for a long time is an education for me, for sure.
Oh, thank you. And you're right. You just have to do it. You know,
Yeah.
You never know what it involves into, and who you be, what could involve from that. So that's exciting. I think that's really exciting.
I think you just have to open yourself up to literally be everything that God created you to be. And if you're doing that, then you're doing right, and keep walking that path and keep getting up and starting over. If you fall down, and you have to get back up, you have to keep writing, you have to keep going. If it's something that's in you to say it.
Exactly. Oh, I love that. And you're doing it. You are doing it. And
watch
10 years from now, you're going to have, a slew of films behind you, books going. Yay!
We'll see. And it all started here. I just have to say, you're as beautiful as your cover. I so am thrilled for you for your win in Brussels, and watching the films that you made. And is that your daughter participating with you?
That's my daughter. Yeah,
I love that. That brought sort of tears to my eyes. I love that you incorporate your family into what you're doing, and I get that you wrote it and you did it, but you sort of stand back and let her and the others in the film really shine. And that takes a lot of courage to do, I think, on your part, to sort of hand what you've written over to other people and say, I trust you to do this. Even though you're involved and you're in it and you're right there, you're still allowing everyone else, every single part shines equally in the things that I have seen that you have done. and there is no person that overshadows the other, and that's tough to do. I can't imagine writing without having a leading person or a leading, and you take multiple people, put them in the same scene, and they all have something to say, and you want to hear everything that each one of them says. So every single role is impactful, every single statement is impactful, and watching you do something like that, especially knowing that that's your daughter, is a beautiful thing. I'm so impressed by what you do, for sure. Amazing.
Well, because I really feel we all have something to say. We all have something to contribute. And
Yeah.
I think it's time. And I think us as filmmakers, us as writers, I think that's part of our responsibility to really, and like what you do with Cricket's Dance, it's opening up hearts through story. Right. And we need that right now. And don't get me wrong, I love thrillers. I love action movies.
Yeah.
But
me too. And the Ageless is more like that. So yeah.
But to have that message that we all know, that no matter what the situation is, we're all because of God. We're all, right. Whatever our role is, He's got this.
Right. And sometimes, writing things, like the Cricket's Dance, it's a little bit different than finding Him in the chaos. Sometimes you have to make the character stop and slow down and say, wait a minute, where am I being led? What am I supposed to do? And then answering those questions as a writer and wanting to make the story the best you can for anyone that sees themselves in that role. It's not an easy thing. And I think screenwriters do that differently than people who write novels do. And sort of marrying those two styles of writing is not easy to do. And I was like, when I first, because I didn't know who you were, and I didn't know you were the cover of the magazine and all of that. And I was like, why would this person want to talk to me? I don't get it. Because I asked you that. I was like, why me? And you're like, why not you? And I have to start thinking that way of myself as well, because it's not, you don't see yourself the way others see you a lot, I think. And but it is a lot of hard work. And just seeing that you've won an award based on a screenplay that people haven't even seen yet, just the words on the page. I was so inspired by that. I was like, I didn't know you could win an award for a screenplay that hasn't been done yet. That was new to me, and I was going, wow, I need to congratulate her, because I'm sitting here sort of going through scene by scene by scene and line by line by line of this new script and working on it, trying to get it to all make sense and get the pieces together. I've been fortunate to have help, but to see you win an award for something that is not, people haven't even visually seen yet. Like, it's written so well on the paper that they can already see it. That is amazing. That is a talent. That is a gift.
Oh, thank you. Well, I hope it gets, well, I see it getting made. It might take a little while, but it's going to get made.
Yeah.
One of the things that I love about you is like, you're doing it. It's like you took the opportunity to make it happen. And that so many people are afraid.
I took the opportunity, but I certainly did not create it. I have to say, when God opens a door and all you see is fear on the other side, sometimes you're going, Lord, I'm not certain that that's the door you really meant to open for me. And it's scary, and it's fun, and it's exciting, and I'm meeting so many wonderful, amazing people, and so many other Christians in this industry. Jen Gotson, who did the demo trailer, for example, she's one of the first people that I met in this process, and she's such an amazing person with an amazing heart, and she's won a Dove Award twice, and she's looking to change this industry in positive ways by saying positive things as a Christian, and we need, I think, as Christians to do that and to support one another in that effort. So
yeah, and we just gonna do it.
Yeah.
Walk through that door.
Yep.
The door is being flung wide open.
Yeah, and you're scared to death, you have to do it. And you have to do what you feel like God is telling you need to do. And, you know, when we get so much time here, and there's something to be said for not wasting it, for sure.
Right. Well, I'm very proud of you, and I look forward to
I appreciate it.
Seeing more books of yours being turned into films. And you are a writer, you are a filmmaker, and you are a Christian woman doing it.
Yeah.
You are standing your truth and your integrity, and we need more of that everywhere. So just by being you and doing it, that's inspiring other people to stand in their truth and with their
integrity. To do it. But I certainly am not. I haven't been doing this long enough to really understand the backbone it takes to do this with any kind of longevity. And I have to say that you are, just the short films that you sent me brings tears to my eyes, because watching you share that, your journey, your life, the courage that it takes to do that, it's a lot of courage, and you wear it well.
Well, we have to do it.
Yeah.
We just have to. I think now more than ever, we have to stand in courage and faith and just keep going.
Yeah. You do it well.
And I'm so glad that we had a chance to connect and
me too,
talk about this. And I'm a big fan, and I look forward to seeing and following your career, because it's going to just be wow. You're going to be awesome doing what you're doing. And I hope.
See, you're making me blush like my shirt.
Love it. Yeah, keep going. Nothing's stopping you. Just keep going. And what's so great about this business, you can be 100 years old and still do it.
Yeah.
You have the passion for it.
Yeah.
It's not
about and it is about having the passion for it. At the end of the day, it is. It's about finding that piece of yourself that really wants to do it. And I got to tell you, you have to really want to do it, because it is a lot of work. But I have a lot of help and a lot of amazing people, including you, that have been encouragements to me along the way, for sure.
So if someone wants to reach out to you, how can they do that?
They can go to my Facebook page, author Deborah Robillard on Facebook, and leave me a message there, for sure. I'd love to hear from anyone who has thoughts on the books, the films. I enjoy getting that feedback from people who have something to say, for sure.
That's great. I love it. Well, thank you so very much, Debbie, for your time. I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
You, and I look forward to all the great things you're doing.
I'm excited.
I will.
Sure. I'd love to see you again sometime.
Definitely, without a doubt. Well, thank you so much, Debbie. And we'll be posting this on Facebook, and I'll put your links in the comment section. And good things, all good things. With him, all things are possible.
For you as well. Thank you so much.
All right, Debbie. Mwah! Big hugs. I'll talk to you.
Bye-bye.